YouTuber Jake Paul knocks Tyron Woodley cold, and here's how the world reacted. Is this the start of an illustrious professional boxing career for the vlogger? Let's get into how the world reacted to Jake Paul knocking out Tyron Woodley cold, and other boxing news that's making the rounds. First, Jake Paul knocks out Tyron Woodley in the 6th round. Jake Paul sent out a clear message to all his doubters after he knocked out former MMA star Tyron Woodley in what is deemed to be the most surprising boxing upset of the year. After a rather boring first 5 rounds, Jake Paul ended the fight with a brutal overhand right, which crushed the former UFC champion right on the mat motionless. The referee declared Paul the winner as he simultaneously called for the doctors to attend to Woodley. Thankfully, Woodley was okay, but this marks the 2nd time Jake Paul has been successful in knocking down a professional fighter in a boxing fight, his previous victim being Ben Askren. The future seems pretty bright for the YouTube vlogger, and here's what the experts have to say about his victory. Next, the reaction to Jake Paul's victory over Tyron Woodley. Most boxing and MMA fans were just absolutely blown away by Jake Paul's punching power and his consistently proven knockout ability. The famous MMA journalist Ariel Helwani called the knockout punch absolute insanity and went on to talk about how scary it must have been for Woodley to be on the receiving end of such a punch. Boxing journalist Dan Raphael also called the end result an absolute obliteration, and even the current light heavyweight champion George Kambosos was blown away by the intensity of the punch. With so many people who live and breathe boxing praising Jake Paul, you cannot help but wonder whether Jake Paul has a bright future in the world of professional boxing. Now for the critique of the Jake Paul fight. While Jake Paul is receiving a lot of praise from fans and experts, there are many in this demographic that still don't have a lot of positive things to say about the fight. Many viewers pointed out how boring the fight was during the first 5 rounds, where both fighters were pretty much on the defensive and neither were willing to attack. MMA editor Nick Baldwin called the entire fight incredibly bad and boring, and Joshua Headley pointed out how predictable Jake Paul's technique was, with him tweeting, "I don't know why I expected Jake Paul fight to be exciting. Punch, clinch, dance, and repeat." Many fans have also been quick to point out that while Jake Paul's current record isn't an unbeaten 5-0, these bouts were never against an actual professional boxer. His portfolio of opponents were against a former NBA player, Nate Robinson, 2 former MMA stars, Ben Askren and Tyron Woodley, with him having faced the latter twice. While defeating former MMA fighters is pretty impressive, especially if professional boxing is not your day job, it is important to note that these fighters are over 35 years old. Older fighters are normally easy to beat, as their reflexes are not exactly what they used to be. ESPN's Porter Larson has argued that it is time for Jake Paul to face a high-caliber boxer, and went as far as to say that Jake Paul has not had a professional fight in his life before. Next, Jake Paul's aims for the future. Despite criticism, it seems that Jake Paul will continue his current trajectory of fighting non-boxers in professional boxing matches. In the post-match interview, he praised Woodley for accepting the fight on 2 weeks' notice, but went on to bash current MMA megastars Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz for not accepting his boxing match offers. These seem to be the next opponents Jake Paul is set to face, although these are MMA fighters who are active and on the peak of their careers right now. Facing them will not be as easy as Woodley and Ben Askren, especially considering the way the latter was knocked out by Masvidal within 5 seconds not so long ago. Let's see what the future holds for the career of this bright boxing prospect. Now that we are done with our main story, let us move on to other news in the world of boxing. Possibilities of Artur Beterbiev facing Saul Alvarez increases. Artur Beterbiev has maintained his record of being the most brutal boxer out there, as his latest bout with Marcus Brown has cemented his status as the only world champion in the WBC that has a 100% knockout rate. Now it begs the question, who is next in line to face this unstoppable nightmare? Many argue that Saul Alvarez might be the next suitable boxer for him, as he has the proven ability to go against him pound for pound. Nicknamed Canelo, this illustrious fighter is not limited by weight divisions, as he is already a champion in 4 different weight divisions. He currently owns the undisputed middleweight championship after he defeated 3 unbeaten champions. For someone who has proven record of beating the unbeatable, it would be interesting to see how he would fare against Artur Beterbiev, who claims a similar tag. Bob Arum, who is responsible for promoting Beterbiev, has revealed that Canelo has expressed interest in the fight. He said that while some say Beterbiev is too big for Canelo, it's also a proven fact that the latter has the ability to handle any fighter no matter the size. He added that if the fight were to happen, it would be the biggest event in boxing, and we agree with him on that assessment. Beterbiev himself has said that he is ready to fight anyone. Manifesting his inner Ric Flair, he said that in order to become the best of the best, he needs to beat the best. Well, let's hope that he has a chance to do that in a match against Saul Alvarez. Derek Chisora vows not to retire despite major loss. Derek Chisora suffered a major loss to Joseph Parker in a heavyweight match held in Manchester on Saturday. Despite being suffering from extremely heavy punches and at least 3 knockdowns, Chisora somehow managed to make it to the final bell, where he lost via judge's decision. This is the 3rd loss in a row for the 38-year-old British boxer, which has led many to speculate that the time may have come come for him to hang up his gloves. However, Chisora still feels he has a lot left in the tank and has vowed not to retire anytime soon. The fight itself was extremely painful to watch, with Chisora knocked down with a massive uppercut in the third round. Not giving up, he found a way to beat the count and continue the fight, only to find himself suffering the same fate against the same punch in the next round. However, despite all of this, he did manage to make a mini comeback and landed some heavy blows to Parker, which helped him survive the round. This did not help Chisora build momentum, as he went on to suffer from 2 more knockdowns in the subsequent rounds, which eventually compelled judges to give a unanimous decision in favor of Joseph Parker. Parker gave an incredibly dominant performance, and he looks to be in great shape right now, but honestly, the sun might be setting on the once great Derek Chisora. Many fans found it incredibly saddening to see him crumbling right in front of their eyes. Derek, however, seems to disagree, as he promised to return in the next summer. Jake Paul lands shots at Tommy Fury during the weigh-in. A lot of things happened in the Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley weigh-in that do not seem to matter now because of the way Paul won the fight. Some of the highlights of that weigh-in was Jake Paul weighing 2 pounds more than Woodley, him offering Woodley a ton of money if he wins the fight via knockout, and Woodley promising to show a different self in the fight. None of these are anything to write home about, but what is noteworthy is the way he mocked his potential opponent Tommy Fury. Fury was originally slated to face Jake Paul instead of Tyron Woodley, but a severe chest infection and a broken rib ruled him out of the fight, and Woodley was named as a last-minute replacement. Jake Paul appeared at the fight wearing a shirt that read, "Tommy, this should have been you." He also, during the walkout of his fight, wore a UK-themed outfit that mocked Fury even further for watching the fight at home from his television. This is not the only athlete that Jake Paul is repeatedly taking shots at or attempted to fight. His victims of abuse include the likes of Saul Canelo Alvarez, Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor, and his own brother and fellow vlogger, amateur boxer Logan Paul. Whether these jabs will ever amount to an actual fight between any of these athletes is something that remains to be seen. Who would you like to see Jake Paul fight next in his rising boxing career? Let us know in the comments below. And that's about it from our end. What did you think about Jake Paul's brutal knockout of Tyron Woodley? Do you think Jake Paul is a genuine force to be reckoned with in the professional boxing arena? And what other YouTubing boxers do you rate as potential professional boxers down the line? Let's forward all of this discussion in the comments section down below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like our content. We'll be back with more boxing content, but until then, it's bye on our end.